The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Welcome to a time where the end was not upon us. Armageddon was not near, simply a time where vengeance had descended upon the land. Wrestling Unwrapped season finale begins right now. This is Vengeance 2001.
And welcome, as Harry said, to the season finale of Wrestling Unwrapped. We'll kind of get into why it's the season finale a little bit later on. And yes, we are covering the final pay-per-view of 2001 and the first pay-per-view of the Vince McMahon and Ric Flair era of the WWF in Vengeance 2001. As always, wait, hang on. You hang on. As always, I'm your host, Patrick Hetza, and joining me, as always, Mr. Harry Broadhurst.
You can't call it an era if it lasts 4 pay-per-views.
I didn't say it was a long era. I know, by WrestleMania 18, Ric Flair gives up his spot.
Not true. Technically, he was still the owner at Backlash 2002. By Judgment Day, he's no longer co-owner.
Oh, okay. So it lasted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pay-per-views.
I was close. I said 4. And there was a UK exclusive one in there too, but we never do the UK exclusive pay-per-views, so kind of irrelevant. What's up, everybody?
Wait. As Vince McMahon himself said, nothing important happens in the UK.
I feel like we have listeners over in the UK, and you just offended a good portion of the ones that we do have.
That is a direct quote from a promo he did.
Well, that's all well and good, but I still love our UK listeners. So the views and opinions of Patrick Ketchett and Vince McMahon do not necessarily reflect those of Wrestling Unwrapped.
They're not even my opinions.
Do the plugs.
God. It's going to be a long night, folks.
I'm not going to miss you at all when we go on break.
Yeah, all, 2 weeks? Anyway, yes, as Harry mentioned, as always, this show is a presentation of the W2M Network. For more information, including articles written by yours truly, and helped with by Mr. Harry Broadhurst as well, including College Football's Top 25, although that's pretty much done now, I would think.
I actually had an idea I wanted to run by you for that. We'll talk about it after the show ends.
We're not doing our own power rankings.
I was going to suggest we do our own bowl predictions and put it in an article for the W2M website.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later on. Be sure to visit W2Mnet.com. And, of course, this is in partnership with 411mania.com. And, Harry, your turn.
As per usual, tonight's episode of Wrestling Unwrapped is brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you're a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, magazines, video games, pretty much anything you can think of wrestling related, you can probably find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped, and Jason Kunkel, the owner of the Toy Chest, will include a free gift with your purchase. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest for all of your wrestling needs on eBay.
Thank you very much, Harry. So, yes, this is a rather weird time in terms of the WWF. Why? Because this is legitimately the first pay-per-view after the invasion ended in the now second longest match in Survivor Series history, when Team WWF beat Team Alliance.
Have we ever covered a show from the invasion? I don't think we have. I know we did WrestleMania 17 because, greatest show ever, but that wasn't technically during the invasion. The invasion didn't technically begin until King of the Ring. Well,
no, by the way, to answer your question, no, we haven't.
Huh. Might be something to look into next year.
We'll see.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so to kind of get into a little bit of backstory as to what would lead us here, yes, at Survivor Series 2001, Team WWF would defeat Team Alliance, thereby putting the Alliance completely out of the company, and Vince McMahon is yet again the sole owner of the WWF and pretty much the entire professional wrestling business. However, I believe the very next night on Raw, as Vince was about to strip Stone Cold Steve Austin of the WWF Championship and award it to Kurt Angle for being a spy on the Alliance side, he gets interrupted by Ric Flair. And we would come to find out that Stephanie and Shane sold their stock in the WWF to Ric Flair, thereby making them 50-50 partners. This was a really convoluted storyline. So, from there...
Although, much the same way of history having a way of repeating itself, Ric Flair once again financially blew his wad too early.
No, I think it kind of paid off for him in this case.
He lost it in a tag match on Raw.
Oh, that is true. He did. Anyway, so this would leave us still with two champions, the WCW champion or world champion by the time we would get to here, and the WWF champion. Originally, Ric Flair proposed the idea of just doing champion versus champion, title for title. And then Vince, of course, opens his big mouth and says, no, why don't we have two title matches, and the winners of those two title matches will meet for one final title match for the Undisputed Championship. And that would lead us right here to Vengeance 2001. Real quick, it probably bears mentioning is that, no, this is not Armageddon, as obviously I would think a lot of people would know December 2001 and what happened only 3 months prior. The WWF actually made the choice to change the name from Armageddon to Vengeance as a means to maybe not try and stir up any emotions or make anybody angry as to what had happened several months prior on September 11th.
Or vice versa, to get revenge for what had happened a couple of months prior. Armageddon would return to its normal monthly slot the following year in 2002, where we would see 3 stages of hell.
Oh, Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Uh-huh.
Another unnecessarily long match?
We have a show to cover. Let's focus on that.
I know. So, yes, it brings us to a rather interesting situation where we legitimately have a triple main event, but we don't know who's in the third main event. Because it will be Chris Jericho versus The Rock for The Rock's World Championship. That's what they called it, the WCW Championship. And then it will be Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for Stone Cold Steve Austin's WWF Championship. And then the winners will face off to crown the first ever Undisputed Champion. So, it's 4 superstars, 3 matches, 2 titles, 1 undisputed pay-per-view. 1 undisputed pay-per-view? God.
You're special.
I know. 1 undisputed champion to make for, well, the perfect 10 of a pay-per-view. This is Vengeance 2001.
the views and opinion of Patrick Ketzer are solely his and do not necessarily reflect those of Wrestling Unwrapped.
10. Anyway.
That joke came crashing down and it hurt inside.
Didn't crash as bad as your joke.
Are we ready for the results?
I was about to get there. As we always do. Very good. As we always do, here's Harry with the results of this pay-per-view of Vengeance 2001.
I'm going to need a little bit of help here because I'm not positive. San Diego, California?
Yeah, San Diego Sports Arena.
December the 9th, 2001.
15 years ago, Friday.
Come on, baby! Anywho, this is your 2001 Vengeance result list. Here we go. The total run time of 2 hours, 38 minutes, and 24 seconds. At least that's your pay-per-view runtime. Not sure what the network runtime is.
What did you say it was?
2 hours, 38 minutes, 24 seconds.
Same.
Really?
I think this one is, if not totally, largely uncut on the network.
Nice. And as you heard, your theme song was Sinner by Drowning Pool. Anywho, the hip-hop hippos, hip-hop hypocrites. What up, King Ross? Anywho, A-Train and Scotty 2 Hotty defeat the team of Christian and Test when the A-Train pins Christian with the Baldo Bomb, not quite yet the derailer, at 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Edge pins William Regal to retain the Intercontinental title at 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Jeff Hardy pins Matt Hardy with a swanton and a moving the foot off the bottom rope at 12 minutes and 31 seconds.
You're missing something.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah, Lita was the guest referee, but that doesn't count in regards to the results. That counts when we talk about the match. Quiet, you. Anywho, the Dudleys retain the WWF Tag Team titles when they defeat the team of Big Show and Kane. Bubba Ray pins Big Show after a drop toe hold into an exposed buckle, I believe.
The 3D!
After the exposed buckle. I know there were buckle shenanigans involved in the finish.
I think it was just a 3D into the exposed buckle.
Then technically that would be a double flapjack. Anyway, at 6 minutes and 49 seconds. The Undertaker retains the WWF Hardcore title.
No.
I think he wins the Hardcore title. Yeah, you're right.
Correct.
Pinning Rob Van Dam after choke slamming him off a stage at 11 minutes and 5 seconds. Not just a stage, the stage. Would that make him not a bad stage, not a good stage? Just never mind.
What's the next match, Harry?
That one was almost bad as my Hogan lawyer joke. Anywho, Trish Stratus retains the WWF Women's title. Yes, the Women's title did exist before WWE. When she pins Jacqueline with a backslide at 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Steve Austin retains the WWF Championship, pinning Kurt Angle with a stunner. Timber! At 15:01. Chris Jericho becomes the new world champion, defeating The Rock with a rock bottom at 19:05 after pretty much everyone, including the 36th Airborne, gets involved. And speaking of everyone, including the 36th Airborne, Chris Jericho becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion of the World Wrestling Federation, defeating Steve Austin at 12:35 after a belt shot from Booker T. I actually think he hit him with the world title too.
I believe so. And then the weird thing is, I think Booker runs off with the belt.
Well, that's because it doesn't exist anymore.
It did. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess technically the two belts didn't become one until WrestleMania 18 because someone's ego was too big to carry two titles.
But look, it would have been after 18 because he still had both belts at 18.
That's what I'm saying, the night after 18.
Maybe. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Schmuck. Not you, him.
Well, I know who that was meant for.
Yes, it was meant for exactly who you think it was meant for. All right,
Me.
Those are your results. Let's talk matches.
Thank you very much, Harry. So, yeah, a pretty important and for a time, kind of a game-changing pay-per-view that we're dealing with here. And yes, this was legitimately 15 years ago Friday, which is scary. I was 10.
I was 16.
Oh, you're not that much older than me.
No, we've established that I'm 6 years older than you are.
I know. Anyway, so yes, kicking things off is the likable half of Too Cool, Scotty 2 Hotty, teaming with the hip hop anonymous, hip hop hippo, Albert.
Hip hop hypocrite.
That's all, folks.
Just remember, he is your friend. He is your friend.
God. And they're taking on the team of Test and the European champion, Christian. Sorry, Christian, you don't get a title match tonight. And he may have been the only one. Unless the light heavyweight championship was still a thing.
Well, I mean, there was still a junior. I think it was still the light heavyweight. I think they might have kept the cruiserweight title once the split happened. Because I want to say that it was X-Pac that was champion. I'm not certain on that one, though.
But either way, considering who the hell is in this match was, to me, better than it had any right to be.
You know, that was one of the things that I always wanted to point out. For some strange reason, Scotty 2 Hotty and Albert had really good chemistry as tag team partners, and I never understood it. Because Albert never really gelled with anybody in a tag team. I've never really thought much of him as a worker, period. And I know there's going to be people that are going to give you that whole you need to watch his Japan stuff, you need to watch his Japan thing, you need to watch his Japan stuff. Yeah, no, I don't, because I know what kind of worker Albert Matt Bloom was, and I know what kind of worker he was when he came back, and if that's how he was over in Japan, I really don't need to watch it to be bored out of my mind more.
I'm guessing that's not how he was.
I actually like Tyson Tomko, but that's completely on a different topic there because that was a tag team partner over in Japan. But as far as Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty went, though, it was just an unreal chemistry that those two had when they were placed together there, and it's something I never really understood, but I always enjoyed their matches.
Yeah, and this one's really no different, featuring, like I said, their opponents being the European champion and Mr. Immunity. And that will come into play later on in a really awkward-ass segment.
Do we have to discuss Test attempting to date rape Trish?
I wasn't going to go that far.
I will.
Well, I guess it kind of does bear mentioning now.
Okay, to be fair, that dude bagged Stacy. He was doing something right. I mean, those things were steroids, but that's beside the point.
Oh, yeah. This wasn't even his final form. Wait till he got to TNA.
Ah, yes, the Punisher, Andrew Martin.
Yeah. Anyway, but even like, despite the chemistry on one side, and I want to say the Un-Americans wouldn't become a thing for a while still, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't that like 03?
Mid-2002. Because
okay.
Christian and Lance Storm would be tag team champions by SummerSlam.
Okay. So, and I'm pretty certain Test would join them. unless I'm getting things mixed up with somebody else.
He would be an associate member. Yeah, actually, he would be a member. The associate member would be one William Regal.
We'll have his presence seen later on. But
yeah, actually.
But yeah, I don't know how, considering, you wouldn't, if you were thinking of it, the idea that a lot of people have of an opening match, something to get the crowd into it, get the crowd on their feet, get them excited for the pay-per-view, I am not going to put Test and Albert out there. But for some weird reason, this one, at least on Albert's case, worked. Test was boring as hell, but that's Test. But they got the crowd into it, and of course, Scotty 2 Hotty, did he hit the worm?
No. The finish was the Baldo bomb on Christian.
I'm trying to remember. I know he goes for the worm because he does it after Christian goes for the worm. And his idiotic way of doing it.
I think he might have hit the worm, or I think he might have been cut off going for the worm by Test.
That might be what I'm thinking of. But yeah, in the end, though, Albert does pick up the victory by hitting the Baldo bomb, which, I'm sorry, is still a really dumb name for a move. We get it. Albert's bald.
No one ever said they made sense down there. I mean, at least it made sense that he called it the derailleur when he was A-Train.
Yeah, that one makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not good, but at least it makes sense.
And then he had that train wreck over the shoulder backbreaker, yeah, as well.
Whatever. But yes, so the Hip Hop Hippo and Scotty 2 Hotty end up picking up the victory here. So, shall we move on, please?
Your next contest sees Edge defending the Intercontinental title against William Regal, and in what would be a preview of things to come for the next 3 months here. These guys would actually meet on 3 straight pay-per-views, which is something that in this day and age of the WWE you almost never really see anymore. Miz and Dolph
not
Ziggler
at all.
excluded. Miz and Dolph Ziggler excluded.
I can think of another.
Are you thinking Styles and Ambrose? Because technically there was a tag match that broke up that.
No.
What am I missing?
You take the title, you take the title. You take the title, you take the title. You take the title, you take the title.
We'll save that for when we discuss the women's match, shall we?
God. Yeah, sure, why the hell not? God. But, yeah, so William Regal against Edge for Edge's Intercontinental Championship. Real quick, William Regal cuts a promo before this match. You watched this before, we reviewed it now, right?
Sure, let's go with that.
It's just, to me, William Regal, I don't know if it's because I'm so used to hearing how he sounds now. William Regal sounds really weird to me in this interview. Like, his voice sounds like 3 octaves higher.
Well, you got to remember that Regal was actually more of an active participant at this time and frame than he was as the general manager now. So these days he has to contain an air of professionalism about him when he talks, so he chooses his words more carefully.
Yeah, I would suppose. It's like I was listening to his promo, and it's just like, that's William Regal kind of thing.
This is a besmirched William Regal who wants his title, or the title. I guess technically it's not his title yet. It wouldn't be his title until the Rumble, but neither here nor there.
Yeah. But getting into this match, you can definitely tell who's on the upswing here. Without a shadow of a doubt, Edge kind of has everything. I don't want to say given to him, but, the commentary, which, thank God, the commentary, we get the legendary pairing of Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. But as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, this was Jerry Lawler's first pay-per-view back.
It was Jerry Lawler's first pay-per-view back. Heyman would lose his job as of Survivor Series.
Yeah. So there's a lot of firsts and lasts that go on this night. We'll get into some more later on when we get to the triple main event. But so, but you could tell that the commentary, they were definitely pushing Edge. It's easy to see that they saw something in Edge. And I almost wonder if Edge had continued this complete upswing that he seemingly had. I do wonder, would the fans have grown to start detesting him even more than they ended up detesting him?
I think the answer to that has to be yes, because you got to consider the backlash, pun intended, for his return back in 2004. Because let's be honest, when he came back against Kane in 2004, coming off of that neck surgery, that crowd was not impressed with him. And to be fair, the match against Kane was kind of a clunker. And then you had the SummerSlam 2004 match with the triple threat against Batista and, help me out here, I'm drawing a blank on the third participant.
Keep one of the things Cena, but it's not.
No, it's not by 2000 SummerSlam. No, I'll look it up here in a few seconds. But by SummerSlam 2004, Jericho. By SummerSlam 2004, in that triple threat there, the crowd had almost completely turned against Edge. And he was just making his big major babyface return from having severe neck surgery just 4 months prior in April, and this is by August that the fans are already sick of him.
Yeah, there's just fickle fans. Why does that sound familiar? I'm sure it's nothing.
Nah, it's not like Vince knows what's best for us and would do it anyway, regardless of what we think.
Remember, he who laughs last laughs loudest.
We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show for sure.
Oh, sure. Especially because it was something that you and I both just realized today.
Mm-hmm. All right. As far as this match goes, correct me if I'm wrong for the finish here, because I did not get a chance to rewatch this show due to some personal commitments I had for the week. But correct me if I'm wrong here. Regal goes for the nuts and gets caught with the spear for the finish.
Regal has you're fairly close. Regal has the nuts, and Regal puts the nuts on. He just doesn't get a chance to pull the trigger before he gets speared. He has the nuts, though.
That's what I mean. He has the nuts loaded up, but doesn't get a chance to swing them. It's kind of like the Triple H Batista sledgehammer smoking gun at Vengeance 2004, if you think about it, or Vengeance 05, if you think about it.
Yeah, the Hell in a Cell match when Triple H has it in his hand, but he can't pull the trigger.
Yeah, and well, it would lead directly to the rematch at the Royal Rumble, which would have been January of 2002, and that's where Regal would win the title. And then it would lead to the, I'm almost certain Vince Russo is back on the payroll, brass knuckles on a pole match at No Way Out 2002, which I feel is a show we have to do at some point.
I swear to God, bro, no.
I don't mean for Vince Russo. I mean for the debut of the debut of the NWO in the WWE.
We'll see.
I mean, we're going to be touching on the NWO in January anyway. We might as well show them some love or whatever. Go from there. I know how you feel about a certain brother, but he doesn't wrestle on the show. He just appears.
We'll see.
Okay, fine. But anyway, so yeah, this would lead to a 3-month feud over the Intercontinental title, and then the man who drops the Hardcore title at this particular show would be the one that would take the Intercontinental title off of William Regal in what would be his first WrestleMania match.
Boy, the flip-flopping between titles is getting really confusing. Anyway. But, yes, so Edge would...
And this was back when they had like 9 different titles with which to flip flop.
Well, European, Intercontinental, Hardcore, Tag, Undisputed, Light Heavyweight.
Well, the 3 had just expired the previous month: the U.S., World, and WCW tags.
Right, because the Dudley Boys would become the unified tag champs.
Right, beating the Hardys, which kind of sets up our next match. Segway!
Do we have to spell this one?
Yes, unfortunately we do, because it ties into bigger and better things down the road, allegedly.
Matt Hardy gains weight?
Well, that would be the bigger things down the road. Hi-yo!
No, I was going for that anyway. That's exactly what I was going for. Anywho, yeah. So, it's brother versus brother. It's Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy, with Lita as the guest referee.
Okay, say what we want to about the match itself here. I actually think Lita did a phenomenal job as referee.
Oh, she was the best part of the match.
I mean, in fairness, that's not saying a ton.
All right. I said this to you. I'll say it live on the air because, quite frankly, I don't give a damn. I'm pretty sure Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy are just incapable. Physically incapable. It's put into their DNA. They will never be able to have a good match against each other.
So I'm going to guess I'm the only one that thought the WrestleMania match that they had a couple years later was actually pretty good.
That's probably the best one that they had, but that was still awkward at times.
Oh, no, I agree with that. And although the finish was sick, I love the finish for the WrestleMania match, the twist of fate with the chair.
Yeah.
So, props for that.
Yeah, that was probably their best match. But unfortunately, considering what else happens on that pay-per-view, it unfortunately pales in comparison.
That was Taker Shawn 1, right?
Damn right. Greatest match of all time. And yes, I will take that to my grave.
I'm still going to pick one of the Ricky Steamboat Ric Flair matches from '89, but to each their own.
Anyway, but it's just I'll sum this matchup in 3 words: slow, boring, awkward.
I disagree with you on boring, because I think there was enough intrigue in it. And I think that given their reputations of being the guys who flip and fly all around the ring, they wanted to establish themselves as people who could actually work in matches as well. And that was kind of the story that was being told going into this match, if you recall. So let's take everybody back a month here to Survivor Series 2001. And the Undisputed Tag Team titles are on the line in the cage matches. The Dudleys take on the Hardys, their first time ever against each other.
Hey. Unified, not undisputed. There's only one undisputed title, and we're crowning it tonight.
Fine. The unified tag team titles at Survivor Series inside of the cage. And Jeff Hardy, being the showman that Jeff Hardy is, instead of just dropping to the floor like a normal person and winning the tag team titles, decides to go for a swanton bomb off of the top of the cage on Devon Dudley through a table. Devon promptly moves. Jeff Hardy goes splat. Dudley's win. Hence why we have to sit through Dudley's Big Show and Kane next. So, my point being here is that the build-up to this match was all about Matt calling Jeff out on his quote-unquote daredevil antics, his stupid mistakes. So it made sense that the two of them would have a more Matt-based match, if you think about it.
I understand where you're coming from. I 100% do. And if anything, it's trying to get Matt to kind of assert a little bit of a change as we would pretty much just be months away, I would think, from Matt Hardy's greatest character of all time.
Matt Hardy version 1 would not come out until the end of 2002, sir.
Well, we are months away. Might be 10 months, but we're months away.
Moving on.
Sorry, I had to. Anyway, but it's just I get the entire point of it. I really do. But you could tell that this was a storyline match. Because it seemed like, here, real quick, it seemed like during the match itself, despite the build, during the match itself, it seemed like more of Matt's focus was on Lita rather than Jeff, who he's trying to prove a point to.
Oh, no, I agree with that, but at the same time, though, I think that this feud was planned to go further than just the one match there. Now, obviously, the fact that this match was clunky, and I'll be honest, it was very clunky, and that kind of probably played a factor in the fact that this feud didn't continue. You also have to consider that there were backstage issues involved for the Hardys as well, about them showing up late to shows or missing shows or whatever it was. I don't know the exact specifics here, that actually led to them getting suspended for the better part of the end of most of January into February. They wouldn't make their return until they came back as a team, and all of this shenaniganery was forgotten by Tag Team Turmoil with No Way Out.
I'm wondering... Oh, wait a minute, it wasn't them. Crap. Never mind. I was wondering if this was also part of what led them being prosecuted in Wrestler's Court, but I'm pretty sure the Wrestler's Court thing was Edge and Christian and not Matt and Jeff.
I don't have the slightest clue what you're talking about.
There was a tag team who supposedly ended up, Wrestler's Court, like with Undertaker as the judge and everything.
Yes, I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay. There was a tag team that was put on trial in front of Judge Booger Red, and yes, Jared does call him that tonight, for bribing members of the creative team for a better spot on the card, and the trade was autographed action figures for said creative team members' kids.
Well, that just seems kind of douchey.
Hence why they went to Wrestler's Court.
I mean, not entirely unsurprising when you think about it, but still kind of douchey.
Yeah. But for the life of me, I can't remember which team it is.
To Google why we do the show.
Because, of course. But, yeah, it's just... I was getting back to the match itself.
Yeah, you Google, I'll continue the thought process for this match here. No, definitely not what a lot of people were expecting. And I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's a bad match, but at the same time, it's not a good one either. It's kind of one of those middle-of-the-road matches, which, given the two participants in this match and the fact that this is their first major singles breakout opportunity, I mean, yeah, Jeff Hardy's had singles matches on pay-per-view before, and Matt Hardy's been involved in a couple of three-ways and stuff where he was the focus of one of those matches. I remember back to I think it was Backlash in 2001 where he was in a triple threat match for the European title that he won in as champion. But, wow, nice defense. Anyway, but going back to the particular match in question here, the thought process that I would have as far as the whole thing with the Hardys go is that you would have to think that their lack of continuity and their lack of chemistry in this match is probably what led to the push of them against each other being postponed happened.
I find it weird that of all of the people to have a somewhat clunky match, it's the brothers who probably fought in their backyard against each other every day for 10 years?
Do you think it's possible that nerves played a deciding factor in this too, though? I mean, let's be honest here. As I said, this is probably their first major opportunity as single stars to establish an identity for themselves. Do you think nerves kind of played a factor in this?
I guess, and maybe it's nerves combined with the fact that they were trying to change it up. You know, you may have to also throw in the fact that as much as they may have known what they wanted to do, they may not have known where Lita was going to be.
Well, I don't think that... I get what you're saying as far as Lita goes there, as far as her being a referee for the first time, and obviously her not understanding probably what exactly it is that a referee is supposed to do. Like, I get your thought process there. But at the same time, I really don't think it made that big of a difference as far as what Lita was doing in regards to the match itself. I just think that between nerves and between just general clunkiness, it's what caused this match to come off as bad as it did.
Yeah, it's more of a clunkiness thing. But it's just, it's not nearly as bad as the WrestleMania 25 match, but the problem is that that's the best one that they've had, and I really can't think of any other good match that they had against each other anywhere.
I thought the I Quit match from Backlash in 09 was pretty good.
And yes, I'm including the final deletion.
I'm going to delete you if we don't move on.
By all means.
Anyways, so, Undertaker is hardcore champion, huh?
Well, if you're going to put it like that... Wait, did you just skip a match?
Oh, I did. Do we have to talk about those tag title matches? It's the Big Show and Kane as a tag team. Do we really need to discuss it?
This would be the first time of 86 times that they would be a tag team. Because I even sat there and wondered, I was like, wait, was this the same teaming from WrestleMania in Chicago? And then I realized WrestleMania was in Chicago over 4 years later.
I'm almost thinking that there's probably another... I'm almost thinking that there's probably a previous example of the two of them teaming together. This may be their first pay-per-view tag team match, though.
Oh, joy!
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet on one man.
And you know what the worst part is? Like, the worst part of this match, because yes, there is a worst part of it, is the fact that this was during the time that the Dudleys had the smoking hot Duchess of Dudleyville.
Oh, the big
in their corner?
Are you referring to...
No. I'm not even talking about that. The worst part about this is the Dudleys are heel.
Okay.
Which makes it really awkward because the crowd doesn't... the crowd doesn't want to boo Stacy, but technically they're supposed to boo Stacy. And the crowd doesn't want to. And the crowd also, it seemingly feels conflicted because I don't know that Kane and Big Show were even the good guys here.
Kane and Big Show couldn't get out of each other's way long enough to be the quote-unquote baby faces here. See, this is the disadvantage you have when you come into a match like this with the face-heel alignment the way that it is. And what I mean by that is, usually when you have a smaller tag team taking on a larger tag team, even though by no means are the Dudley Boys small men, but comparatively speaking, they're dwarfed by Kane and the Big Show. With this kind of a face-heel dynamic, it makes for an awkward situation in regards to the Dudleys having to be in control of most of the offense for this match here. And a lot of the times, let's be entirely honest about it, a lot of the Dudleys' offense isn't viable against larger men. Because they tend to run on a power game. But they tend to run on a power game, and who's going to buy them outpowering Kane or the Big Show?
I might buy Kane. Definitely not the Big Show.
I might buy Bubba outpowering Kane. I damn sure don't buy Devon doing it.
Not at this point, anyway. I'll say that Devon in TNA, when he, exploded to become like triple the size.
Leroy.
Who's Leroy?
Sorry. I had a catch in my throat. I'm good. Carry on.
Who's Leroy?
I said Leroy.
Kelly Skinner's not on this pay-per-view.
She should have been. Anywho, she was probably like 10 when this show happened.
I don't know, and I'm not getting into that one. Anyway, but yeah.
Anywho, no,
you go from essentially one clunky match right into another. But at the same time, this match, the crowd was into this match. I have absolutely no unearthly reason why, but the crowd was into this match. Well, then again, they got to his ass, but who wouldn't pop for that one? But it's just weird. It's like the crowd just wanted to cheer the Dudleys.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they had to boo the Dudleys when the Dudleys were with the Alliance, and given the options of the two teams available, they were much more likely to cheer the team that they knew were the better workers, that being Bubba and Devon.
It would have to be.
I mean, if I were to venture a guess, anyway.
I don't know. But like I said, the crowd was more into this match, I think, than they were. You know what the funny part is? We talked about Matt and Jeff, and we didn't even talk about the actual ending itself. Is it even worth mentioning?
Yeah, we'll talk about that once we touch. We'll go back and talk about the ending once we touch up on this match, because we're almost done with this one too. And frankly, the Matt and Jeff match carries more relevance for me. So let's just go ahead and finish this match up real quick.
Okay. Well, in this case, Bubba pulls off the turnbuckle, and Jim Ross does call it a 3D. Just fair warning. Jim Ross calls it a 3D, but in this case, it's Bubba and Devon both pulling Devon's part in it, the flapjack part of it, as they double flapjack Big Show into the exposed turnbuckle, and that gets the 3, and the Dudleys retain the unified tag team championship.
I don't think it's so much. I don't think it's so much that this match was. No, this match just wasn't good, frankly. The crowd was involved in it, but it wasn't good.
I mean, that's pretty much all that really needs to be said.
I think sometimes, though, I guess crowd reactions can make up for match quality with some circumstances, and I guess this is one of them there. Do you think it's the fact that they actually kept up a quicker pace than what we saw from Matt and Jeff is why the crowd reacted so favorably to this match?
I was wondering that, and I know it kind of sounds weird that you would say that, you think Matt and Jeff had a slower-paced match than freaking Bubba Ray, Devon, Big Show, and Kane. But, you know what part of it was, though, is I think the Dudleys more delivered on what the crowd was expecting. As like I said, Matt and Jeff went pretty off their playbook with their match.
Yes, I will completely agree with that. When it comes to expectations going into these matches, the 4 men in the tag title match kind of delivered exactly what you thought they would, whereas Matt and Jeff, to a lot of people, had to have been considered a colossal disappointment. And especially to that live audience, I was probably expecting both of them to be bouncing around the ring like pinballs.
So, just both of these were kind of clunky and awkward, but I would say that the tag title match was the better match.
I would disagree with you on that, but we'll get more into that a little bit later, I suppose. All right, so let's come back to the finish for this. Can't believe we actually forgot to talk about the finish for our match. Or special. Anyways, let's go back to the finish for this Matt and Jeff match here. So what happens is Jeff Hardy hits the Swanton. Jeff goes for the cover. Lita gets into position to count. Lita counts 1. Lita counts 2. Matt gets his foot on the rope at 2. Jeff removes the foot from the rope. Lita counts 3.
Lita was obviously just watching Matt's shoulders and not his feet.
Right. Whereas a more experienced referee in that position, you would think would be looking at the feet as well.
Or, yeah, at least, keeping his head on a swivel, knowing how close to the rope they were. Especially knowing how close to the rope they were. But yeah, and of course, this would, play into things that would end up going unfinished for the most part. Lo and behold. I mean, to be fair, Lita does apologize, except for the fact that Jim Ross essentially becomes the biggest Lita apologist I've ever heard, with the fact that, to be fair, and I said it and I'll say it again, she was the best part of this match. She called it down the middle and most of the time knew what she was doing. But immediately, as soon as, the bad call happens here, Jim Ross immediately goes on the defensive. Well, it's her first time doing this, she's inexperienced and blah, 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 and woo, woo, woo. And it's just one of the things that it's like, she didn't do bad. You didn't have to go that far. But it's just, the whole thing was weird. And then not only that, to me, pulling a foot off the rope is kind of a heel move.
I mean, technically it's a move of somebody who wants to win a match. Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad of a finish. I think it made sense character-wise that Jeff would want to pick up the win however he could, and if that meant Lita not seeing the foot, that meant Lita not seeing the foot.
Yeah, I don't think this is more of a hint of a heel turn for Jeff. This is more of a Lita's inexperienced.
At least when it comes to refereeing. Hi-yo!
Wow.
I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible person. I have already accepted this.
Well, don't worry. I'm about to join you in our special little spot in hell. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the first time Lita screws Matt.
Oh, I can't lie. That's pretty damn funny.
We're terrible people on this podcast. Give us a break.
No, we've never made any bones about that either, just for any new listeners. We've long established that we are awful people.
Yes, we are absolutely awful. Speaking of awful, hey, how about that Hardcore Championship match?
Okay, me and you are going to have a colossal disagreement if that's your actual opinion.
It's not.
Because I just want to say that, A, Taker got concussed in this match and still put on a hell of a performance. B, of all people to drag this performance out of Taker at this point in their career, it's Rob Van Dam. Because let's be honest, Taker was not exactly lighting the world on fire in 2001 with his in-ring work. Taker wouldn't become a good ring worker again until about 2006 against Kurt Angle. And C, the argument could be made that this was the best finish to a match on the entire show. I mean, Angle's timber cell aside. I loved Angle's solo the stunner, but we'll get to that when we get to the to the first of our triple main event.
Yeah. But, no, I'm absolutely kidding with that. So our next contest is Rob Van Dam defending the Hardcore Championship against Booger Red, Big Evil, the Dead Man, the leader of Dead Man Inc., I'm trying to think of all the other nicknames. Anyway, the Undertaker. American Badass Undertaker.
The walking one-man militia of nicknames, as it were.
There's another nickname. I can't believe that Jim Ross actually called him Booger Red.
I can't believe that it actually stuck around.
Did it? Did it really?
Yes, it did.
Anyway,
I know for a fact I remember certain people. I know for a fact I remember certain people using that name when it comes to him in regards to online reviews. I won't mention any names because certain producers don't like this person, so we won't get myself in trouble by saying his name.
Anyway, but in terms of this match, yeah, this was actually a really good match. I'm trying to remember the term that I've heard, because they would fight into the crowd, but there wasn't a lot of walk and brawl, I believe is what I've always heard the term be called, where it's like one punch every 10 feet until you get to your spot.
No, a lot of the crowd, and that was the big problem with a lot of that Attitude Era crowd brawling, is that it was a lot of walking and not a whole lot of brawling. Whereas these guys were trading shots throughout the entirety of their time in the arena, backstage, on the stage, around the stage, in the ring, however you want to call it.
Until they were thrown off the stage.
Well, one of them was thrown off the stage. The other had to climb down off of the stage as well.
So they both went off the stage.
Yeah, what I think happened is that if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that Taker got concussed on one of the shots with the fire extinguisher backstage. I'm not certain of that, but I want to say that's when it happened. I know it was one of the ones backstage that got him.
I don't remember Rob hitting him in the head with the fire extinguisher. I think he caught him in the gut and in the knee. Maybe it was the garbage can?
Maybe, but you wouldn't think a galvanized garbage can would cause a concussion.
That's true. Like I said, I don't remember Rob hitting him in the head with it. There may have been a chair shot to the head, now that I think of it, but that may have been to Rob's head. Anyway, okay. Because of the fact that we did already review it, I don't know that I would go so far as to say that this was a better hardcore title match than the Triple Threat at WrestleMania 17, but I would say it's probably the best one since then.
I would disagree with that, because we actually discussed this when we were discussing WrestleMania 17, and that one of the participants in that WrestleMania 17 Triple Threat was involved in my favorite hardcore title match of all time the very next month. Raven and Rhino at Backlash in 01.
Oh, okay.
Which is actually on the History of the Hardcore Title DVD.
Which I need to get.
I need to get that one as well.
But anywho, but yeah, surprisingly, Rob Van Dam and The Undertaker actually have a really good match. And yeah, they do brawl all around. I think the only place that they didn't go would be the actual fabled, backstage area. Because they pretty much just fought behind and just went up the entranceway to, back to, the entrance of the stage.
Yeah, they fought through Gorilla.
Rest in peace, Gorilla.
Indeed.
Anywho, but yeah, it's kind of, like you said, at this point, The Undertaker wasn't exactly setting the world on fire in the ring. And let's be honest, he never really had before. usually because he was stuck with the Monster of the Month for the longest time. But this was definitely one of Undertaker's better matches, especially since his return his return, being, cripes, a year and a half earlier now. This may still have been one of his better matches.
Yeah, May of, correct me if I'm wrong, May of 2000 was when he came back as the Dead Man, and Judgment Day 2000. So
yeah, when he interfered in Rock and Triple H's Iron Man match.
I mean, Taker Triple H at WrestleMania was really good, but that's Taker at WrestleMania. It's kind of hard for him to have a bad match at WrestleMania when the opponent isn't named King Kong Bundy or Giant Gonzalez.
And not only that, look who his opponent is. 2001 Triple H was probably one of the best in the world, legitimately.
The argument could be made that at that point in his career, Triple H was the best wrestler in the world. And I say this as somebody who strongly dislikes him. I've never been a huge fan of him as a wrestler. But at that point, yeah, the argument could definitely be made that Triple H was arguably the best wrestler in the world at that stage in 2001 before, obviously, the quadriceps injury and on that episode of Raw in May.
The very one that would keep him out of this pay-per-view, and I believe he would return roughly 2 weeks after this pay-per-view.
It would be about a month because it was January 7th, 2002. I remember the date specifically because there was a Mattel Defining Moments action figure that was Triple H's return, and it had a write-up on the back of it, and it specifically said January 7th, 2002, Madison Square Garden, Triple H returns from injury.
There you go. And truth, and I know you may disagree, probably one of the greatest returns of all time. Just for the crowd. Wow. You're really not going to even give him that one.
My opinion of Triple H is common enough knowledge that I don't feel the need to comment any further than what I've already said.
All right. But,
you're fishing where you're not going to find anything is my point.
All right. So getting back to the match, though, so yes, they would end up fighting onto the stage until Rob Van Dam goes back into ECW mode, essentially, and The Undertaker chokeslams him off of the stage through 2 tables onto the floor.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't he try the Van Daminator, which Taker ducks, which leads to that chokeslam off the stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at some point he tried a Van Daminator.
I'm almost certain it's directly into the finish. He goes for the Van Daminator, Taker ducks, and then goozles him, and then throws him off the stage with the chokeslam through those sound tables down there on the floor by the stage.
You really just say goozled him?
I did say goozle, because that's what that is. That's a goozle, damn it.
Good Lord.
Are you saying you've never heard the phrase goozle?
I have. I just haven't heard it in so long. I can't believe you used that.
Sean can yell at me later. That was a goddamn goozle, and you know it.
Anyway, so the Undertaker wins the Hardcore Championship.
Quick trivia. Who do you lose it to?
I'm sitting here trying to think of it. There's one name that keeps popping up, but I'm about 90% certain it's wrong.
I'm listening.
I'm even probably more like 98% certain that it's wrong. For some reason, the name that pops in my head is Kirk Angel.
Maven.
Oh, boy, was I way the hell off.
Yeah, Angle's only hardcore title reign would come at the hands of Rob Van Dam when, I believe, actually Austin threw Van Dam off a stage. Seems to be a recurring theme for Van Dam's WWE career, WWF career.
Rob Van Dam was Zack Ryder before Zack Ryder was Zack Ryder.
Yeah, but at least Van Dam had the opportunity to not go off in a wheelchair and almost blow out both his ankles.
Hey, Ryder wanted a push. He got a push. It was a push off the stage, but he got a push.
You stepped on my line, you jackass. Carry on.
You knew where I was going with that. Shut up. So, yeah, probably one of the better matches, as weird as that sounds saying. So our next contest, scheduled for one fall, is essentially the final undercard match of the night.
With a 10-minute time limit. They may not have said that, but it may as well have been blatantly clear as day that it was going to be. Come on. This is Trish in 2001. Did anyone really think she would go in more than 5 minutes?
I mean, fair enough, considering the fact that this does... You could have set a 5-minute time limit.
Yeah, it barely gets over half of that. I think I announced the match time at 3:35.
That's the match time I have.
Yeah. Wait, you're actually keeping match times? You're actually keeping match times now? I'm so proud of you.
Wikipedia.
Oh, boo.
Boo you. Anyway. So yes, it's Trish Stratus defending the Women's Championship against Jacqueline. In kind of a case by now of, holy crap, Jacqueline still works for the company.
Yeah, you could have said that about any number of title shots that Jacqueline got over the years.
And it wasn't a title win.
Wait a minute, she had a jaw... Oh, yeah, the Cruiserweight title in 2004 when we were telling Chavo to pretty much go screw himself.
That wasn't even the worst that it would get for him.
Well, yeah, having to feud with Hornswoggle.
I was there for one of that matches.
I almost made an incredibly inappropriate joke there. I'm going to go ahead and move on and discuss this match instead.
Not like there's much to discuss.
No, there's really not. Trish wins with a backslide and then would end up taking on Jazz at the Royal Rumble, with Jacqueline as the referee.
Of all things. Now, to be fair, Jacqueline does show Trish Stratus some respect. You know, shakes the hand after the match, which I'm wondering if this is kind of the company's attempt to put Trish over, which by this point, no, not yet. You know, because they may see Jacqueline still as one of the, she's one of the Attitude Era girls. So they may have tried to do the handshake, Jacqueline shaking Trish's hand as kind of like, I don't want to say a changing of the guard, but that might be kind of what they were going for. But at this point, not yet. Trish wasn't that good yet.
Well, I think in regards to this particular match here, it had more to do with establishing Trish with a win over a veteran competitor that most WWF fans are going to know. I mean, let's be honest. Up until this point here, and I guess to a larger degree, up until that six-pack women's match at Survivor Series, Trish was really only known for her looks in the WWF. This was just really the beginning of her as an in-ring competitor.
It would take a couple years, but she probably would become, for a time, the best that the company had. She's not saying too much, though. Well, yeah, could be saying, considering who they would end up having with, like, Ivory, Molly Holly. Well, they already had Ivory. Molly Holly, Victoria. And
I mean, they already had Molly at this point, too. They just weren't doing anything with her, if you recall. She was dating Spike for the longest time in 2001. But, no, Trish wouldn't really hit her stride until she started the feud with Jazz in 2002. Because it would be Jazz in 2002, and then that would lead to Jazz, Trish, and Lita at WrestleMania 18. And then she would continue feuding with Jazz until Jazz would get hurt, and then she would transition into a feud with Molly Holly for most of the rest of 2002 until Victoria came up to the main roster.
And we're not going to mention the entire point of that Molly Holly and Trish Stratus rivalry.
Molly's got a bid, but...
Divas Revolution, ladies and gentlemen. I know, this was 15 years ago, but you get the idea.
I would just like to take this opportunity to point out that I have always been a fan of Molly Holly's caboose, but that is neither here nor there.
It's there and it's everywhere.
Over there, and up there.
Anyway.
Bonus points if you get that reference.
I don't, and I don't want to.
It's Ahmed the Dead Terrorist. It's a Jeff Dunham reference.
Wow, I'm surprised I didn't get that. Anyway, so it is triple main event time. Because there's one thing that kind of felt weird about this, was the fact that it wasn't like they were doing well, of course they're not going to do that. It wasn't like they were going to do the WWE Championship and World Championship matches, open up the pay-per-view, and then the Undisputed Championship goes last. Nope. We're going to do all three of these back to back to back.
Well,
and of course, Austin, and real quick, of course, Austin and Angle and whoever wins that one, because the WWF is better, they get the break.
Well, I actually think it has more to do with the fact that I think Jericho was more able to handle working back-to-back than Austin was at this point in Austin's career.
Oh, yeah.
So you can save your skepticism for a different show, because in this particular instance, it actually makes sense that Austin and Angle would go first, because I think Jericho is far the better conditioned of the two between him and Austin at this point.
Well, there's a storyline reason and a legitimate reason. Yeah, absolutely. Chris Jericho would be able to pull off back-to-back matches, with no problem. And I'm trying to think between Chris Jericho.
Just real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the storyline reason that it was a coin flip that decided which of the two matches would go on first?
I don't remember.
Almost certain JR mentioned something about the fact that a coin flip determined that Austin and Angle would go on first.
Quote, unquote.
Yeah, well, we all know how those coin flip things work out. Pretty much the same way Intercontinental title matches in Rio de Janeiro do.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So our first of three contests is for the WWF Championship. It is the WWF Champion, Stone Cold Boston, defending against Kirk Angel. And real quick, before we actually get into the match, I'll say this. Two things, actually. One, they did not screw around at all with this. They just went match into match into match with only one 30-second segment, and that was pretty much just to get Kurt Angle the hell out of the ring. And, well, we might mention that segment, but anyway.
We already said earlier in the show. We already mentioned Test attempts to date rape Trish.
I still would have only gone with molest.
Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Yeah. Dude was trying to do this. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Oh. All because Trish wanted the people's strudel. Anyway.
Yes, because women characters were important back in 2001.
It's nice to see Trish was still treated as she was seen despite holding the damn belt. Anyway. So, yes, it is Kurt Angle against Stone Cold Steve Austin. The winner of this one will face the winner of Rock and Jericho. And the winner of this one is also, the WWF champion.
I would take this opportunity to say that's the first time you've actually said Kurt Angle tonight instead of Kurt Angle.
Probably.
100%.
Oh well. I'll give him his credit too. I'll tell you one thing that did sound weird because I realized that this was before this happened. Hearing Kurt Angle come out to his music and not hearing "You Suck."
Ain't that the damn truth? Going back and watching those older shows is a trip now because when metal plays, you just kind of subconsciously add in the "You Sucks" yourself.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I actually did, and I was trying to hear myself, or I was trying to force myself hear the crowd saying it. So, but it's not my fault he sucks.
Your blatant lack of respect for Kurt Angle aside here. Not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of one of those in and out sort of things. The next two matches are overbooked to bleep and back, as we talked about the text when we were discussing this. As I mentioned here, Jericho wins with an assist from Booker T, the Big Boss Man, in the 86th Airborne in most of these matches.
Yeah,
Yeah, this match right here was just cut and dry. Austin pins Angle clean with a stunner.
The problem is, I think we're getting better, but I think we're still at the point that Kurt Angle is still treated as an afterthought.
I agree with that. Despite the fact that he is at this point a two-time WWF champion.
I was going to say the first time he was an afterthought.
Almost completely and totally, but I mean, it still leads to one of my favorite pay-per-view lines of all time. Should we ever redo No Way Out 2001? No,
Is that the one with Kurt Angle tap dancing on the computer board?
Okay, let me get my 5-second delay ready here. Tap you, son of a... before I break your ankle.
Oh, yeah! Okay. As a matter of fact, I was reminding myself of that line while I was watching and going over. Yeah, while I was watching Angle and Austin today. I was seriously doing that.
I can't see Angle put somebody in the ankle lock without thinking of that, really. But it's just one of those things where you see him put somebody in the ankle lock and you immediately think of Psycho Killer Kurt Angle.
But as far as the match itself, yeah, it seems pretty clear pretty early, despite the fact that he does get a lion's share of the offense, but it's pretty clear early on, Kurt ain't winning this match.
Nope.
Especially considering the fact that, here, real quick, especially considering the fact that for most of this match, King JR definitely, and King was guilty of it too, kept talking about what's going to happen if it's Rock and Austin in the final, for the Undisputed Championship. The two champions, what if they retain and collide? What's going to happen there? There was never there may have been a couple of mentions for Jericho. There damn sure wasn't a mention for Kurt Angle.
Oh, no, I definitely think out of the four men going into this show, pretty much everybody had Angle as the least likely of the four to walk out champion. I mean, I would make the argument that out of the four men going into this show, Jericho was probably the next least likely, but we all know how that turns out.
Drink it in, man.
It is the night that he beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the same night to become the first ever Undisputed Champion, after all.
Becoming the Undisputed Champion? He invented that.
Well, I mean, he brought it back anyway.
Anyway. But yeah, it seemed like you knew that Kurt Angle wasn't winning this match, and it sucks because, truth be told, they actually had a pretty good match. Great for Austin standards at this time. I mean, you know, we're getting to the point now where age is not on Stone Cold's side.
Agreed.
You know, time's not on his side. No, it isn't. And, you know, after his WrestleMania X7 match, I'm trying to think of another match of moderate quality that he would really have.
The three-way at King of the Ring was really good. The SummerSlam match against Angle was really good.
Oh, like I said, Angle. You know, look who you're in the ring with.
And yeah, the three-way at King of the Ring was Jericho and Benoit.
Look who you're in the ring with.
I don't disagree.
So you know, for Kurt Angle to get this out of Austin, I don't want to say he's a miracle, but I'm glad he was able to, because there were times where it looked like there were moments that, you know, could be worthy of a false finish that maybe it's like, okay, maybe Angle could pull this one off. Not if you ask commentary, but be that as it may. But there were definitely moments where it's like, hey, maybe Angle can pull this off. But like we said, you know, in the second greatest sell job, sorry, I will not put Kurt Angle over The Rock. Kurt Angle falls victim. Hang on. Kurt Angle falls victim to Stone Cold Stunner for the 1, 2, 3. Steve Austin retains the WWF Championship, and he will now face the winner of The Rock versus Chris Jericho.
I'm sorry, Rock's oversell of the Stunner has nothing compared to Angle's timber sell.
Rock is the greatest. Actually, for my top 3 sells of the Stunner, in no particular order, Rock, Angle, and Scotch Hall.
I was just about to say, last call Scott Hall at WrestleMania 18 was awesome. If you're going to oversell the Stunner, that's the way to do it. Jump back 3 feet after taking one and back bump the shit out of it. Hell yeah, Scott.
Stunner, whee! Stunner, whee!
Actually, it was 2 Stunners. He kind of stumbled and staggered on the first. The second one sent him flying backwards like he had been shot out of a cannon.
And I think it's almost universal who has the worst sell of the Stone Cold Stunner of all time. I've heard it constantly heard as the water bottle bump. You don't know who I'm talking about, do you?
Vince.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue that Linda's cell was worse, but that's beside the point.
How about President Donald Trump?
You're fired for bringing him up. Let's move on.
So he's got the 3 best and the 3 worst.
Hey, we brought back Countdown. All right, go us.
Good Lord.
It's Throwback Thursday on a Sunday here on Wrestling Unwrapped.
Wow. Anyway, so
yes, I just blatantly ripped off America's Funniest Home Videos, and no, I am not apologizing for it.
Oh, no need. No need. So, moving on, it is our second of our triple main event, the second semifinal match, essentially. This coming after the 30-second segment of Test pulling off his immunity card and trying to molest Trish Stratus. This is the last we'll mention of it, I promise. So, moving on.
Again, molest, date rape, tomato.
We are going to get in so much trouble tonight.
No, because if anybody actually goes back and rewatches this show, they'll find out that we were not wrong.
That is true. We're not wrong, because it's a pretty awkward segment.
So, Andrew Martin landed Stacy Keibler. Test had no game whatsoever. It's why Stephanie left him for Triple H.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay, I love the fact that you're going to mention what you just mentioned with Test and Trish, and then you're going to go and say that Triple H has better game with Stephanie. Do you not remember how they got married?
I do remember how they got married. It's the exact jokes that I made about Test and Trish.
God. Moving on.
The Attitude Era was a different time.
That's an understatement.
Clearly.
Moving on. For the World Championship, Jim Ross does at one point mention, yes, it was the WCW Championship. Leave us alone. The Rock defends his championship against the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla, Chris Jericho.
Okay, if we're going to sit here and list Jericho nicknames, we're going to be here all damn night. So let's go ahead and just get into the match.
Well, the King of the World wins. No, all right.
I'm waiting for you to continue, because I'm sure there are several more queued up and ready to go.
Actually, no.
So you're saying he is not your paragon of virtue, because that makes me a little sad.
No. Anyway. I mean, I'm trying to think. This was their... Cripes. Third match now for the championship?
Yes. The first one at No Mercy where Jericho wins the title. The rematch on Raw where Rock wins it back. This match is the third.
So, the tiebreaker here, and to be fair, this is a pretty good match. This is actually quite a very good match. At least for the first three quarters of it.
Until the booking kicked in.
Yeah, pretty much. Swear to God, bro. Sorry. No, he's not actually on the creative team for this pay-per-view somehow.
That we know of.
Remember, there were still contracts that WWF had to buy out. His was one of them.
If I'm not mistaken, it would actually come out during June or July of 2002 that they actually brought him on as a creative consultant. And it was found out by the roster that they were actually paying Vince Russo. There were a good number of people who threatened to walk if Russo wasn't fired.
See, I heard they brought him back, but then when he managed to book 6 months of storylines in a matter of 3 hours, they said, too much, too fast, go home. That's the story I always heard.
I almost feel like I owe it to myself to go back and rewatch and go back and look into that story more, but, not right now because we're in the middle of the show.
Yeah. So, Chris Jericho and The Rock. So, yes, this is their tiebreaker match for the... the hell with it, for the WCW Championship.
The world, technically.
Well, I don't even know why the hell they stopped calling it the WCW Championship. Well, because WCW was dead. All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they switched it over to the world title because any mentions of WCW were taken off of the program, with the sole exception of the now WWF Cruiserweight title.
But it's not the WCW Cruiserweight title.
Yes, but the Cruiserweight title did stick around instead of the light heavyweight title.
Can you blame them?
No, because that light heavyweight title was fugly as fudge.
I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about the quality of the work. And Matt Hardy. Anyway. And, I mean, like I said, for the first three quarters, Jericho and The Rock actually have quite a back-and-forth battle that includes going through one announce table, and it's not the one you think it'd be, surprisingly.
Nope, this time the American table eats it.
To which the entire crowd just goes, wait, what the hell?
Steve Cold and Carlos were like, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go.
They're probably sitting there going, stay over there! Stay over there!
Well, have you seen that movie with Usher as Sugar Ray Leonard? Like that new movie that just came out recently? Oh, Usher plays Sugar Ray Leonard? Yeah, they're doing the Roberto Duran part of that. No loss! No loss!
Oh, okay. We're getting in so much trouble tonight. Anyway. But, yeah, the one thing I found weird, why was Chris Jericho constantly trying to go for the rock bottom?
Because he wanted the extra added insult of beating Rock with his own move.
I found it weird. I think he goes for it at least twice before he actually does hit it on, I think, the third attempt. Because one of the attempts is the one where he tries to put Rock through the English announce table, and instead the Rock DDTs him, and only half the table breaks. Ow. And not only that, it's not the half that the Rock lands on.
Yeah, well, you know, Jericho's never had the best of luck when it comes to those announce tables. That's Triple H, he'll tell you.
My question is, who does have better luck with the tables? Chris Jericho or Randy Orton?
Oh, God, that announce table at WrestleMania 30 was out to get him.
And I'm talking about all the times he's tried an RKO on a table and it didn't break. See, Money in the Bank 2011, when he goes for it twice, it doesn't break. And he nearly kills Christian.
My thought process was the WrestleMania triple threat where he ends up back bumping on a monitor.
Yes, because Batista's an idiot and can't pull both monitors out of the table. We're getting away.
Don't call him.
So, getting back to this, yeah, I mean, it was fine for the first three quarters. They were really having quite a good match, and to be fair, Earl Hebner, I believe, was letting them go, you know, because of the fact that, I mean, do you really want to just give Stone Cold Steve Austin the Undisputed Championship by double counting, by, you know, via double count out?
I mean, technically you couldn't, because then if the match ended in a count out or a double disqualification, you couldn't give Austin the title because technically Rock would have still been the world champion.
All right, then we still have Rock and Austin.
Well, yeah, I guess. Maybe Hebner was on the Jericho payroll for this show.
I can see that.
I'm just saying, it's not like it's above him to screw a talent out of a title.
He screwed himself.
Really? That's the best I get to that?
Yes. Yes, it is. Moving on.
Fine.
Yeah, so this kind of goes from the night where we crowned the Undisputed Champion to the night of interferences. As a matter of fact, I'm actually trying to remember who the hell interferes in this one.
Vince?
That's right, and Vince never leaves, does he?
Vince comes down and... No, because it's... Well, I mean, Vince gets kind of involved in the main, but Booker T is the deciding factor in the main event. Vince screws Rock here to get Rock back for the Kiss My Ass closing.
Which, by the way, what does Rikishi get for that? Only an interview at WWF New York.
That's because he's a bad man. Bad man.
Not anymore.
Nope. Now he's a bad Uso.
Well, no, you know what? In that case, he's a bad man for helping give birth to the Usos.
Jesus. I don't know who you hate more, Miz or the Usos. It's close.
Miz. Anyway.
It's got to be close, though.
I don't mind the Usos. I just like making fun of them.
Hope they open their own super kick party on you.
Oh, please. I'll never be near them. Anyway.
That's probably true, actually. I mean, that whole restraining order.
Anyway. So, yeah, so in this case...
If it makes you feel any better, I choked right after I made that joke.
Good. Anywho, so yes, in this case, Vince interferes and becomes interference number 1 of 95, I think was the final count.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. And in the end, because The Rock decks him, Earl Hebner is trying to get Vince out of the ring. Chris Jericho low blows The Rock and then hits The Rock bottom on The Rock and pins him 1, 2, 3 to become the world champion. And he will now face Stone Cold Steve Austin for the Undisputed Championship
Immediately. Yeah, like as soon as the 3 count pulls, the glass shatters and Austin comes down and starts opening a can. Like, what the hell, Hebner? Pull him back!
To be fair, Jericho's music played for about 15 seconds, but it played.
Well, again, this is a case of he who laughs last as champion. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So, yes, for in essentially the finals of this 1 hour, honestly, tournament, for the Undisputed Championship, it is the world champion Chris Jericho versus the WWF champion Stone Cold Steve Austin. Winner takes all. And hang on a minute, because we need to have everybody interfere. I actually forgot about 2 interferences that happened. Being that I believe The Rock lays out Jericho and Angle lays out Austin.
Yes, that's actually what takes us into our double down before the match actually settles into something of a formula before it goes all balls to the wall bonkers again going into the finish.
So, hang on. Here, I'll just out everybody real quick. Vince, Flair, Booker T, Kurt Angle, and The Rock all interfere. In Rock and Angle's case, it's before the match starts, but they still interfere.
I'm pretty sure that Jerry Lawler got involved somehow, too. I think he threw a water bottle at Steve Austin. That motherfudger is so biased.
No. You're thinking of the beer can after the 3 Stages of Hell match at No Way Out 2001.
Lawler's biased against Jericho.
Sure, against Jericho. Anyway. Also, there's 2 ref bumps because Earl Hebner gets decked, and then Vince tries to bring out Nick Patrick. Ric Flair pulls Nick Patrick out of the ring and decks him.
So technically, you missed the person interfering. Nick Patrick technically interfered as well.
Not really, because he was meant to actually take over. Ric Flair interfered his job.
I mean, technically, Nick Patrick is an unbiased official.
Yeah, he doesn't follow the New World Order. Wait.
Really? And you're yelling about my jokes? Sheesh.
It's a night of interferences. It's a night we crown the Undisputed Champion, and it's a night of bad jokes. It's our podcast in a nutshell anyway. A night of bad jokes.
Look, that's legit, actually. What more could you want from a season finale?
Exactly. So
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the bell rings with Austin and Jericho down.
Yes.
Because apparently Austin needed a break just for walking to the damn ring. And, well, Jericho probably did need a break because he had just, finished this match.
All right, without looking at Wikipedia, and I'm assuming by now you've forgotten the time that I announced. Austin and Angle was shorter than Jericho Rock. How much shorter was it? Without looking.
Wait. Repeat what you want?
Jericho Rock was longer than Austin Angle. How much longer was it?
Not looking. I'm not cheating. Is it like 3.5 minutes?
4.5 minutes. 1935 to 1501.
So, and then not only that, we'll follow that up with this match going about 12.5.
Yes, 12:35.
So, 12:35 plus 19:35. So Jericho will have been in the ring for over 33 minutes.
32:10, because your math is atrocious.
Yeah.
But yes.
But even that's not counting kind of that small period of time between the matches, because while Austin's music hits almost immediately, there's probably still a couple of minutes there. So
there's a minute or two of Jericho and Rock brawling, and then Jericho and Austin brawling, and then Angle and Rock getting involved, because Rock hasn't left backstage after the match against Jericho yet when he lays out Angle.
To be fair, I can understand that one. Rock not having been backstage yet. I could kind of understand that one.
Yes, I agree. But at the same time, Angle coming all the way out to belt, I think does he belt shot Austin, I think?
I believe so. It's either a belt shot or the Olympic Slam. I think it's belt shot.
Pretty sure it's a belt shot because Angle ain't getting no finishers this night.
He hit the Olympic Slam.
Austin kicked out clean?
Yeah. I'm almost certain of it. I would say 85% certain that, Angle hit the Angle Slam and Austin kicked out.
Huh. They really did treat Angle like a bitch at this show, didn't they?
Yeah.
Good grief.
Like the afterthought that he is.
Woo!
No, he's later.
Oh, no, he woos too, though. So it's cool. It's acceptable.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So, after we said the match goes 12:35, but the problem is, I'm pretty sure it takes Jericho and Austin about 2.5 minutes just to get up.
Yeah, there isn't much of a 10 count from Ebner here.
1! length of a football game. 2, length of a World Series baseball game. 3, that's pretty much how it goes with him.
Yeah, I think they were both up by a count of like 6. Which, to be fair, in Hebner time, is like 70 in Charles Robinson years.
Charles Robinson years or Charles Robinson counts?
Years. Charles Robinson aged 7 years in the time that it took Earl Hebner to count 6. Vengeance 2001.
You're not wrong. So, and I mean, this was tailor-made for Austin to win. How the hell did Austin not win? Shock value, obviously.
Well, it made more sense for a heel to be the first undisputed champion than let the face chase. I think the plan going into Vengeance was going to be Triple H's return, going into him getting the title back at WrestleMania, and it wasn't going to be Austin or Rock that he was getting the title back off of.
I mean, fair enough, considering that Triple H, to be fair, was a face until about the night after he won the title. One of the things that I do wonder is, say Triple H is healthy and they're in the exact same scenario. I'll put it this way. Who does Triple H replace? Chris Jericho or Kurt Angle? Here, I'll say this. You can flip the guys around if you want in terms of the World Championship in WWF, but who does Triple H replace?
Angle.
Really?
And I think he replaces Angle because Jericho and Rock had history going in with the world title. Now, if Triple H is around at this point, I don't know that Jericho ever gets the chance to face Rock for the world title either.
Fair enough, because they kind of did hotshot Chris Jericho up a little bit because they had to.
They didn't really have many credible heels in the upper main event at this point.
All because they decided to bury Kurt Angle.
Well, not to mention there was another upper-level heel face guy that they could have used at that spot as well, but he was on the injured reserve as well at this point.
How long would he be out?
His last match would be at King of the Ring. His next match back wouldn't be until 2003. Oh, no, mid-2002, sorry. Vengeance 02, actually, in July. Benoit.
Oh, okay. So it seems more or less that this pay-per-view was kind of, it seems like it had to be rebooked a little bit. You know, I wonder if there was ever a plan to unify the belts at Survivor Series, considering they unified all the other belts at Survivor Series, or if this was the plan the whole time.
No, I'm almost certain that the plan was always to unify the titles after Survivor Series.
Maybe Mr. Immunity can win them. Anyway. I
refuse to put him over any further than we already have this evening.
I know. So, but, yeah, so after Rock and Kurt Angle interfere before the match even begins, then after Vince comes back, after Earl Hebner gets taken out, after Nick Patrick tries to come in, after Ric Flair takes out Nick Patrick, so then Earl Hebner actually does come to about 65 minutes later, somehow, you know, after the pay-per-view's done. It was a spiritual ghost that was apparently doing the count.
Yeah,
In the end...
It was actually Brian Hebner that counted the 3 for Chris Jericho.
Was it?
No,
Okay.
that was meant to be a joke.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's cool. Step all over my punchline. It's all right.
Like I always do. Anyway, it would eventually be a belt shot from Booker T.
Sucker!
That would finally be the final blow to Steve Austin, and for the 1, 2, 3, and we will all now be able to drink it in as Chris Jericho wins the WWF Championship, thereby becoming the first ever Undisputed Champion.
Okay, to be fair, wins is kind of putting it a little loosely. Gifted, I think, is the word you're looking for. He was gifted the Undisputed title. Wrap it up, man.
Hey. Kevin Owens won. Right?
Yes, fine.
Ha 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 ha, I win, you lose. Anyway. So yes, Chris Jericho would become the first ever WWF, at the time, Undisputed Champion, which he would famously lose at WrestleMania 18 in the wrong match going last at that pay-per-view.
I don't remember him losing that title at WrestleMania 18. I have no idea what you're talking about. Time to wrap up the show.
He lost it, and you know it.
I am unaware of the proceedings of which you refer to.
A car got cut in half because of him.
And a dog died. Poor dog.
And no, we're not talking about Pepper.
No, that dog... Why haven't we done Unforgiven 1999 yet? Anyways.
Do you want PETA coming after us?
Oh, I think we've offended enough people with this episode that it's really not going to matter.
We may have.
Once Sean listens back to this one, we're pretty much getting fired anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
Remember when I said season finale? I really meant series. Anyway, so yes, Chris Jericho closes the pay-per-view as the first ever undisputed WWF champion.
All right, so I feel the need to editorialize here a little bit. Anybody who's a long-time listener to the show knows that I'm a massive Jericho mark here, and even I didn't know what the company was thinking coming out of this show with Jericho as champion. Like, I understand wanting to have the title on the heel and have it chase there, but at this point, I don't think there was any question that the best wrestler in the WWF at this time frame was Kurt Angle. And if you were going to have a heel, yeah, really, no kidding. If you were going to have a heel for Triple H to chase on his return, it should have been Angle, not Jericho, in my opinion. I mean, they ended up wrestling at No Way Out 2002 anyways, where Angle actually beat Triple H. There was a quick count by a special guest referee named Stephanie McMahon, but that's neither here nor there, because apparently this company loves its female special guest referees. It was 3 straight pay-per-views with one.
Not only that, that makes 2 consecutive No Way Outs that the guy who's going to win the title at WrestleMania loses.
Well, Lesnar won in 03.
No. You're going the wrong way.
No, I know. Austin losing to Triple H at No Way Out 2001. I knew what you meant.
Oh, okay.
I was looking forward to 03. Lesnar won in 03. Him and Benoit won the handicap match against Angle and Team Angle.
Yeah.
And Booker T didn't wrestle at No Way Out 2003 because nobody knew Booker T was getting the title match at WrestleMania 19. Not that it mattered anyway.
Let's, for the love of all that is holy, we've offended enough people. Can we please not go there?
Fine.
Please.
I'm moving on.
Anyway, so there's a couple things I think that we have to bring up before we actually get to the big finish. One of them being something that, like I said, Friday, December 9th, marked 15 years for this pay-per-view, and something just dawned on me today about the way this pay-per-view ended. Because Vince McMahon had said at the very beginning of the night, you may all laugh at me, considering the fact that this was 3 days after The Rock made Vince kiss Rikishi's ass, which also, I believe, marked Rikishi's return to the WWF, and I just realized earlier today that happened in Chicago. But he had said, he who laughs last, laughs loudest. To our listeners, if you really want a good bit of irony, this would be the end of the final reign of Stone Cold Steve Austin as the WWF Champion. And it pretty much comes at the hands, partially at the hands, of Vince McMahon.
Well, by way of Booker T, but yes.
But, yeah, you know, Vince McMahon still did not want Stone Cold to win the match and would have helped to do pretty much anything, and Booker T would essentially do his bidding for him, even if it was, you know, without realizing that it actually was him. So, in a funny way, Vince McMahon gets the last laugh over Stone Cold Steve Austin, which is a really weird bit of irony. So, alrighty.
Well, everyone knows how much Vince hates losing feuds.
There's a joke there, I just know it.
It's late, I'm tired, it's okay, we'll move on.
Okay, very good. Anyway, so yes, it is time for the big finish, as we always do, our best and our worst match, and our cash and our trash. So, how about we go with the matches this time? I have a hunch we may partially disagree on a few things here tonight. We'll see. What's your worst match of this show?
Trish and Jackie?
That's one.
I mean, it's kind of not really fair to Trish and Jackie due to the fact that they only had 3.5 minutes with which to do this. But, let's be, other than, the only other really bad match, in my opinion, on this show was the Dudleys versus Big Show and Kane, but that had a crowd reaction that the crowd was distinct there. We kind of talked about this, even though you didn't mention it there. Literally 30 seconds into Trish and Jackie, the crowd was chanting, "We want puppies." They didn't care about those two women actually going into the ring and having a match. Those two women would have came into the ring and shown their tits. Everybody would have been happy, and they could have stopped it right then and there. Let's be honest.
That is true. And not only what also doesn't help is, once again, we're 3 days removed from Trish showing her ass on SmackDown. Well, okay, 5 days removed, but that's neither here nor there.
3 days in WWF parlance, because despite the fact that pretty much everybody knew, they never really admitted the fact that SmackDown was taped.
Except for those weird episodes of SmackDown Live that would mysteriously be on Tuesday.
Yeah, odd how that worked out.
Yes. For me, you mentioned that Trish and Jackie only had 3.5 minutes. You know who didn't have 3.5 minutes? You know who had 12.5 minutes?
You really hated this Hardy's match.
Damn right. Even you, well, actually, no, you got around trying to say it. This wasn't necessarily a bad match, but it's a bad match, but it's not a bad match. It's not bad as in they're constantly botching everything, although they did. Well, not everything, but there were definitely a few mistakes there. But it's just, its clunkiness and the fact that in reality, in barely a month, this all becomes moot. Until the Hardys get suspended and then essentially come back like nothing happened. So, and I'm willing to forgive Lita magically forgetting to check Matt's feet. I'm willing to forget that. Once again, she's inexperienced. Thank you, JR. You wouldn't shut up about it.
In the ring. Referee.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that this match was very clunky. And I wonder, how can you guys probably fight against each other every day for 10 years, and even with nerves, put on that? And think about that. We're saying that Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty versus Test and Christian was a better match than both of those. Figure that the hell out. Anyway, speaking of better, what's your best match of this show?
See, that's actually a really tough one. And the reason I say that is because there was one match that was really good up until the finish, and then there was one match that was really good all the way through. So
I know which one's the first one.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and give my best match of the night for this show to Undertaker and Rob Van Dam for the Hardcore title. And I'm going to put that just above Jericho and The Rock, because Taker and Van Dam, you knew there would be shenanigans aplenty, and that it was a Hardcore title match. Jericho and The Rock was supposed to be a match to help crown the first ever Undisputed Champion in the WWF, and the first Undisputed Champion in wrestling history since like 1905 or whatever year it was that they announced for Hackenschmidt.
1905.
That's what I said. I said 1905 or whatever year. So
yeah,
I was right.
Yeah.
All right, so my point being with this is that with everything going on there, you would think that they would treat those matches with a level of decorum that you wouldn't necessarily have to treat.
Oh, boy. And from the sound of it, Harry just got dropped. So, obviously, that's going to be a problem there. So, we always forget about the 2-hour limit that he has on his phone, and that he has to recall in. So, I'm going to go ahead and give my best match, actually, to the one that Harry gave special mention to. Mostly due to one thing, and that is, I will say, Rock and Jericho. For the first 90% of this match, it's a really good match. It's actually, I just hear everything beeping.
Good grief.
Hi, Mr. 2 Hours.
Yeah, where'd I cut off?
Talking about the match. You expected the shenanigans with RVD and Taker, whereas Jericho and Rock was meant to crown the first ever Undisputed Champion.
And then we talked about...
Yeah, 19 off.
We talked about Hackenschmidt. Okay, so in my opinion there, I'm going to go with the match that actually delivered to the expectations that it was provided for it there, and I'm going to go with Taker and Van Dam as my favorite match for Vengeance 2001.
That's fair enough, and I to catch you up, because I, moved on while you were trying to call back in. I actually gave mine to the match you gave special credit to. I gave mine to Rock and Jericho, mostly due to the fact that the first 95% of the match is actually really good. Even with all the false finishes and all of the very close finishes that there were, and like Rock struggling to get out of the walls of Jericho and everything. And the reason I'm giving that is because, while, shenanigans were very much afoot, and apparently, Chris Jericho can't win a match on his own, but at the same time, much like you have with Kevin Owens today, he's a heel. he should be getting by the skin of his teeth. He should be getting by, through fluky means. Eventually, Chris Jericho would end up picking up clean wins, but this match and the Undisputed title match would both kind of set the standard of what was to come for the next while for him. So, I really don't have a problem with him picking up the win thanks to Vince's interference. So I'm not having an issue with that, and with the fact that I'll give credit, the hardcore match is actually a really good match. But I think I would still give it to the World Championship match and say Rock and Jericho.
All right, I will say this much. I don't know if you've ever watched No Mercy 2001 or not. Have you ever seen No Mercy 2001?
No.
Part of my opinion about this match is kind of tainted by that match, because I think No Mercy 2001 was a way better example of what Jericho and Rock were capable of against each other. And, I mean, No Mercy 2001 has a screwy finish to it as well, but it's not like an overbooked finish. It's just a screwy finish. And I think that if you would have went the route of screwy rather than overbooked with this one as well, then I think I would have been more okay with it.
That's fair enough.
Because, minor spoiler alert here, even though the show's 15-plus years old at this point. Jericho beats Rock at No Mercy 2001 with a low blow and then the breakdown on a chair. If you would have had Jericho weasel his way into another cheap victory like that, or like how Jericho beats Rock at Royal Rumble 2002 with the insanity that is the greatest 4-cheat finish in wrestling history, because he uses an exposed turnbuckle, low blow, roll up with the tights, and a chair, all in the finish. It's like a 4-way screw you from Jericho to The Rock at Rumble 2002. It's pretty glorious.
No kidding.
So if you get the chance, check that one out too. But sandwiched between the No Mercy 2001 match and the Royal Rumble 2002 match, and knowing what those two matches are, even with the screwy finishes, it takes away from my ability to enjoy this one a little bit. So therefore, I'm going to go with Van Dam and Undertaker as my favorite match from this show.
All right, fair enough. Alrighty, so we shall switch gears now, and we'll continue looking at the bright side here. So what's your cash for this one?
The opening tag team contest, actually. It flew by. And given two of the workers involved in this match were Albert and Test, you wouldn't necessarily think that it would do that. But this match was actually really entertaining. It had a nice, solid pace to it. It had really good in-ring action. The crowd was really into it. And it showed how well Scotty and Albert worked together before they prematurely broke them up as a team because they wanted to push A-Train because him big, therefore him better.
Nice to see the old-school mentality never left Vince.
Big beats small no matter what. Thankfully, we've kind of gotten away from that nowadays.
Well, we have a different kind of big beating small right now.
I would point out that your your WWE heavyweight champion is 5'11" and like 200 pounds.
You mean the Universal Champion?
No, the Universal Champion is Kevin Owens. I mean AJ Styles.
Oh. Well, I was more making light of... Never mind.
AJ Styles is probably no bigger now than Jericho was back in 2001.
I got one for you, though. Who's better in the ring?
Wow, that's a tough one. That's not fair.
Here, while you try and think that one out, how about I give my cash?
That's just unfair. Honestly, that's kind of being a dick to me.
Well, look at our show.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
All right, what's your cash, Tetsa?
Lita's referee thong. No, I'm kidding. See, the problem is that there's actually quite a bit of positive that could be here. You could have the takeaway, once again, of the surprising, I don't want to say watchability, but the surprising ability to enjoy that opener. The fact that the last 45 minutes are, pardon the pun, the Chris Jericho show, and the fact that he was able to pull off the back-to-back matches, the commentary, and the fact that when we actually get to the final three matches, they treat it differently than they had the rest of the show. I don't know if you noticed, but something I noticed is they didn't really talk about the importantness, use a word, of, I guess this is kind of going to be it because of the fact that it's the one I'm going in depth on, but they didn't really shed light on how important it was to have one Undisputed Champion because, they would say, oh, later tonight we're still going to crown the first ever Undisputed Champion, but that was really it. There was no major mentions of it by commentary through through the undercard. However, it seemed like when they got to, as soon as Howard Finkel announces the following contest is the first match to crown the Undisputed Champion, and says it's for the WWF Champion, it seemed like everything switched gears into kind of overdrive now. And all of a sudden, Ross and Lawler start talking more about the history of wrestling. They start talking about 1905 with, Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt. And they start talking more about the history that's being made here and how important this is. And they did that with both titles. And then, when you get to the Undisputed Championship match, it's like one of these men is going to be the first ever, no doubt about it, undisputed heavyweight champion. Because of the fact that, and you're going to know this, for years, no matter how many people, claim, no, the NWA champion was the champion, how many people claim to be the NWA champion at times? There'd be 3 or 4, but this was kind of the first time that you had one champion, and they made that feel important. Sure, like we said, it took 2 referees, 5 interferences, and the 82nd Airborne to get there, but at least to me, and this is why they're one of my favorite teams, Lawler and JR made this feel important. They completely changed their commentary for the last 3 matches. They made it seem important. They said this was it. So their ability to switch gears and make this feel truly important, I think is my main positive takeaway here.
The unfortunate side effect of that is that the creative staff took it, the announce team took it more seriously than the creative staff did.
Which is sad, but true.
Well, although I will say this much, I agree with you. Back when they were in their prime, there wasn't an announce team better than Lawler and Ross. Now, we have our varying opinions about things. I've made it very well known on this show that my favorite play-by-play announcer of all time is actually not Jim Ross, it's Joey Styles. And Lawler is not my all-time favorite color commentator either.
Mine either.
But I will agree that when paired together, there is no team better than Ross and Style, or better than Ross and Lawler, excuse me. And the answer to your question, the answer to your question, and as much as I hate to say this, is I would take current Styles over 2001 Jericho.
Oh, okay.
And the reason being is that I think there's still room for Styles to grow whereas we saw what Jericho's become. The only thing holding AJ down from being an all-time great is his ability to cut a coherent promo.
Well, I think he's even become able to overcome that.
He's much better than he was, but I wouldn't say he's good by any stretch of the imagination. But all right.
Oh no, I'm talking about in terms of being an all-time great. I think what he's been able to do in the ring is going to offset his inability to cut a coherent promo. We're getting away again. So, be that as it may, what is your trash? What's the one negative aspect of this?
Vince's promo to start the show, and if only for the simple fact that I hate promos on pay-per-views. I think it's an insult to your paying customers to open the show the same way you would open a typical episode of Raw or SmackDown. Pay-per-views are supposed to be all about the people purchasing the pay-per-view getting their money's worth. And if you're going to start the show with a 5-10 minute promo, that's the exact kind of thing that you would see on an episode of Raw or SmackDown. It makes it feel like just another television show. I've always hated when they do those kind of promo segments on pay-per-views. Always hated it. There was a very specific reason I didn't mention Vince's promo until right now.
That makes sense.
How about you, Patrick? What's your trash?
I have to mention it one more time.
I know we said
Yeah. I know we said we were going to mention it again, but for the love of God. And not only that, they smashed it in between the two championship matches.
Can we just pivot to that entire segment in general, though? Specifically the fact that Trish was going looking for The Rock to try to get some anyway?
At least The Rock welcomed her into his locker room.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, my thought process being to that would be is, A, Rock's about to go compete for the world title, about to go defend his world title in the hopes of competing for the Undisputed title, and B, Trish is your women's champion here. How about treating the belt with some decorum?
Well, at least, they're two at the top of the game. Why'd I have to mention the game? Never mind. But, just... what I think also didn't help is the fact that Trish was in a towel for this segment.
Well, I think that depends on your view of Trish, of whether that helps or not.
In this situation, in this scenario, no, it doesn't help.
Not if you're trying to give her any kind of credibility with the championship.
Yeah, and immediately it makes me think back of the other segment that she did with a towel wrapped around her, except in that one, she dropped the towel.
The Monday Night Football one with Shelton?
Bingo!
I remember that.
How the hell can you not?
Hey, it's memorable. Give them that much.
Fair enough. But it's just the whole thing, and I get it. Ted can do whatever he wants. He can't be fired for 1 year. Blah, 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 blah. He can't be fired from the WWF for 1 year. That doesn't mean he can't be arrested. Right?
You would assume. Although I'm not sure they watched their own shows at this time, because let's be honest, a lot of things that went down around this time frame that could have used a logical explanation never really got one.
And we're a year and a half away from Katie Vick.
Not even a year and a half. We're closer to like 7 months, sir. Or 8 months. September of 2002.
I thought it was 03.
No, it was 02. September of 2002 with that. No, wait, October.
Who's counting? Anyway.
10 months.
Oy. Anyway. So one more thing before we wrap up our final show of this year. What is your final overall score for the final show of the year? What is your final score for Vengeance 2001?
Are we judging solely based on what actually happened or expectation? Because I think expectation has to play a factor here.
What, were you expecting Rock and Austin?
No, I wasn't expecting Rock and Austin, but I also wasn't expecting, as we mentioned, 5 people, 2 referees in the 82nd Airborne to determine the first ever Undisputed Champion. I wasn't expecting Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy to have a snoozer of a contest rather than them having an athletically gifted contest. But both men look good, even Matt in defeat. I wasn't expecting them to take the newly crowned women's champion and have her look like a joke by only having a match on the show for 3.5 minutes and then putting her in a throwaway backstage segment where she's hitting on a guy about to wrestle for the Undisputed title.
And then another segment where she... Never mind.
Where certain unfireable talents attempt to molest other talents. My point being that for as much good that comes out of this show, I think this is a show that people will look back on and think of what could have been. Hindsight being what it was, yes, it gave Jericho something to brag about for the rest of his career, but at the same time, I think that he was the wrong man for the position at this point. I think it would have made much more sense to give the belt to Kurt Angle here. In addition, and just as importantly here, I think that when your expectations for match quality are set at a certain level and the matches don't reach that level, you have to consider yourself coming away as kind of disappointed from the show. It is not a bad show. It is just not the blow-away show that it should have been. My final score for Vengeance 2001 is a 6. I almost gave it a 6.5, but I think I'm going to go with a solid 6.
You're right. It's not a bad show, but when you're starting off the night talking about what's going to happen if Rock and Austin face for the Undisputed title, you're going to have fans spend the next 2.5 hours expecting that final match to be Rock and Austin for the Undisputed title. And they don't get that. I do agree, and please don't kill me. I do agree. Chris Jericho was the wrong guy for this. And I would even go so far as to say you probably could have gotten away with giving it to Rock or Austin. Remember, there is still a major pay-per-view between now and Toronto, being the Rumble. And you still could have used that and have somebody win cheaply to get there. So when you do think of, who's going to be the first undisputed champion, the first of its kind, essentially, you're going to think a big name player. And unfortunately, as good as he is, and as good as he is here, Chris Jericho was not in the ballpark of the likes of Undertaker, The Rock, Steve Austin, Triple H, even though he was gone, but you get the idea. So I do think the wrong person won. And then he'd be the wrong person going last in losing the belt. But it's another show. The rest of the card isn't terrible. The opener is actually surprisingly good. The hardcore title match is surprisingly good. Trish and Jacqueline going 3.5 minutes was pretty much to cover up Trish's lack of ability at this time.
Short-selling.
Huh?
We'll go with shortcomings.
Shortcomings. I was thinking that and couldn't think of a word. You know, that's to cover up her shortcomings. Her matches would get longer. Remember, she's, you know, a 6-time champion, possibly to be replaced by Charlotte in about 3 weeks.
Sad but true.
Yeah, no kidding. Matt and Jeff, I get what they were trying to do. It didn't work. You know, they were trying something different. They were trying a more ground-based. They were trying more of a or they were trying to go against the style that everyone's expecting. It didn't work. It just made the whole damn match boring. Once again, a match with Kane and Big Show was a better match. To me. But this isn't an altogether bad show. It really isn't. I found this one to actually be a relatively easy watch. And I know you had originally told me that there were a couple clunkers. I really only saw one. And I was surprised by the quality of certain matches. I was surprised at how good the hardcore match was. I was surprised at how good the opener was. So I'm willing to let those offset a little bit. So I'm actually a little bit more positive because of the fact that, like you had just said, we get Chris Jericho talking about this for the next 15 years, almost. I think he's finally stopped talking about it, but even then, not really. He beat Rock and Austin in the same night. And not only that, one thing he could even add, an extra feather in his cap, is he did it in back-to-back matches. He wrestled 2 matches and won both of them. Seth Rollins couldn't do that when he wrestled back-to-back. That's something that you can still take away. You beat the 2 top stars in the company, back-to-back. I'm willing to give the indiscretions of this show a little bit of a pass. To be fair, this was, you know, a bit of a different time. The Attitude Era is over. Now the Alliance storyline is over. Where do we go from here? We're going to find out. So I'm actually going to go a little higher because of the fact that you don't know what to expect now. Anybody can win the belt. At least until Triple H comes back. I'm actually going to give this a 7. I was actually tempted to give it a 7.5. But I think the Matt and Jeff match kind of does drag it down. Yes, I do hate that match. Sorry, but I'll give it a 7 and say that if that match wasn't on there, I probably would have given this a 7.5 easily.
I'm going to be in the minority here. I actually, by and large, enjoyed the Matt and Jeff match, even if it wasn't a great match. I think that I put a lot into psychology when it comes to wrestling. And I like the story that they were trying to tell, even if the action didn't necessarily always back it up. This is going to be one of those agree to disagree situations for this show here, and what I'd like to do is I'd honestly really like to restart up our star ratings here and see how much we differ on a couple of these matches. So maybe that's something that we can talk about putting together for the website as well, is using this show to debut our star ratings to go along with our wrestling Unwrapped reviews, since we're going to have some downtime before our next episode, possibly on New Year's night.
And we shall see.
We'll talk.
Yeah, of course we will. As a matter of fact, I almost wonder if we could make New Year's night an awards show.
Would we be talking about like a year-end award for the current product? Because I don't think that our style of show actually fits for doing something like that.
I think we could pull it off. I.e., we don't know what we're doing. We don't even actually know when our next show is going to be. Because next week...
Well, go ahead. I was just about to go there.
Oh. Next week is the final pay-per-view of the year.
We think.
Yeah. There's still 2 weeks left in the year after. sure there's 2 more Sundays in the year after it. So next week we won't be on, and hopefully, we'll see, hopefully, we will all be back on. Gary, Paul, Sean, me, Harry.
Not going to the show, should be available for the podcast.
And not going?
Not going. The finances didn't work out.
Sorry.
It's okay. I've accepted it. It's cool.
Okay. So that will be Woo 2M for Roadblock. Is it the end of the road or the end of the line?
End of the line.
The second WWF Roadblock of the year.
And even more importantly, the second WWE Roadblock of the year.
Yeah. So, and then the reason why this is our season finale is because the Sunday after Roadblock, there's not a chance in hell you're getting me to do a review on Christmas.
I don't know, honestly. I may try to sneak in an episode on Christmas night.
You'll probably be on your own.
Yeah, well, it's going to depend on if Sean's available or not, because obviously I can't run the board myself, and I'm willing to bet that Gary's wife would probably have his ass if he tried to do a show on Christmas night rather than spending time with her and his family.
As would my family have mine.
I may be able to swing something with Leisure, though, so maybe me and Paul can figure something out and do a show here on Christmas night.
Have fun with that.
I'll talk to Paul and see what we can put together. If it happens, check the Facebook page, which, by the way, where can they find us on Facebook?
I don't know anymore if Facebook decides it doesn't want to let me post anymore.
Facebook.com/Wrestling Unwrapped.
Seriously, it's actually pissing me off now. It will not let me post. I've been trying to post on and off. I've just been trying to post stuff for the last week about this show, and I finally was just able to do it today.
Well, maybe the fact that it let you post it today is a sign that it's going to start letting you post it in the future.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Anyway, so we, as of right now, tentatively, because I don't know, what could happen on that day specifically, tentatively, we will be back the first day of the year. Sunday night, January the 1st, 2017. We don't know what we're going to do yet. Haven't thought that part out yet. But we'll have something. So, until then, as always, are we done?
The obvious joke there is that we never put any thought into what we're doing anyway, so why should this be any different?
Exactly. When did we figure out this show? Monday?
After we went off the air for the last one, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So, as always, if you want more information or if you even want to go back and listen to this show, quite frankly, I'm not sure I want to, be sure to check us out as we are a presentation of the W2M Network. You can find more information, including some great, great articles, including written by yours truly, both of us, as a matter of fact, as to help out with a lot of different things. And I just made my W2M debut writing an article for them. Be sure to check out W2Mnet.com. And, of course, this is brought in partnership with 411mania.com.
Also, Wrestling Unwrapped is brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest, stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you are a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, magazines, video games, or any other assorted paraphernalia, you can find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped, and Jason Kunkel, owner of the Madhouse Toy Chest, will include a special gift with your purchase. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest.
So, until next year, for Harry Broadhurst, for Sean Garmer, and quite frankly for everybody here at the W2M Network, Gary, Sean, heck, I'll even let Glenn in on this one just for the heck of it. For all of them. Yes, I did forget Paul. How can I forget Paul? I'm sorry, Paul. For all of them, thank you guys for listening to us throughout the year of 2016. Have a very Merry Christmas. Have a very Happy New Year. We will see you guys on Sunday for Roadblock. But until then, we will see you next year. You have been listening to Wrestling Unwrapped as we talk about Vengeance 2001 here on the W2M Network.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.